Lily, an art psychotherapist at New Pathways, and I'm going to show you how to make a sensory grounding box. This is to help with flashbacks and managing them and helping to ground you and be present in the moment. Make a square piece of paper. I happen to have 2 square pieces already. You're going to need 2 square pieces. So if you have A4 plain paper, you can create a square by folding it like this, and cutting across this line here, and that will create a complete square for you. If I cut across here, then you'll have a perfect square. I'm going to carry on using these pieces just because they're coloured. So next thing to do, so you will already have a line like this on your paper from creating that square if you're starting from A4. So now you need to fold it in half again. So you've got a perfect cross in the middle like that. You'll see the 2 lines. Now you're going to bring up that pointy bit there to the middle line here like this, and then you're going to go flat line to flat line to the middle there like that, and open that out, and you're going to do the same on the other side. So midpoint there to the middle to that bit, flat line to flat line, and fold and open that up. So you can see we've got sections like this, and we're going to do the same on this side, flat line to flat line, point to the middle, open it out, and it creates mini little squares like this. So now I'm going to do the same on this side, so point to the middle, flat line to flat line, and then you'll see in the middle that you have a perfect square down the middle there with 4 little squares in between like that. So what we're going to do now is cut across this line here. So I'll draw it on so you can see. So we're going to cut up that line and cut up this line. So same on both sides. That's the only bit of cutting that you'll need to do. The rest you can just do by folding. So you're going to cut that line, cut this line, so it looks like that. Now what we're going to do is turn it so that this pointy triangle bit is pointing towards yourself. And you're going to flip that up like this. So you've turned in the flat line again to flat line, but your pointy bit going backwards. And you're going to pull in these 2 flaps here on this side, so like that, and just fold it, and like this, and fold it. And then you can see that's making the base of your box. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. So fold, fold, and let go. And those 2 bits you can just bring up gently like that and hold them together, and then you pull up this section here and just do that, squidge the top a little bit, and the same on the other side. And now we've got the whole base or top, whichever way around you'd like, of your box ready for your sensory grounding box. You've got your 2 parts of your box. Sometimes this takes a little bit of squidging to get that inside that one, but as you can see they'll fit neatly together. So that's a box now ready for your sensory grounding. So one thing that people find with trauma is that sometimes it's difficult to ground yourself and be present in the moment. So it might be useful to, for example, write some sentences on the box that will help to remind you of where you are. So, for example, write, now the year is 2021. Change colour pen. I can see around me. So now you might want to do something like you can see around you, and this is helping to ground you. For example, 5 objects, 4 shapes, 3 colours, 2 sounds, and 1 touch. And that will help you to ground yourself in the moment so that you can see that and remind yourself of what you need to do to look around you and help to be in the present moment. So what do we mean when we mean sensory? So you can add different objects that might be of importance to you. So for example, I've chosen this shell that I collected from a beach near my house, and that's got meaning to me, but also it's quite cold if I hold it in my hand, and it's got kind of rough texture. So I might put that in there, and that's going to help me to ground myself, to feel like on here when it says 1 touch, I could grab this, and it's got meaning as well. It reminds me of that beach back home. I might put in there something like a scented candle like this, so you've got the smell as well as the touch. I could also grab something like here, I've dried some lavender, so I might pop in some sprigs of lavender into the sensory grounding box. There's some little pieces here. I've also got another shell, so I might add that. I've got a squidgy owl that helps when I'm stressed, so I might put something like that in there. And here as well, there's something that's useful for kind of fidgeting with if you're feeling anxious, for example. That's a useful thing. And then I might do something like, I really love foxes, so I might put something like a sticker on the outside to remind me of something that I really like. Plus I really like mushrooms as well, so I might put that on there. You also might want to find something that has a bit of a texture, again to help with grounding you, help with the kind of that sensory touch. So I might put on the outside lid something like that, that's got kind of feel to it and helps with grounding. So why are these things useful? So then you could write all sorts of other sentences on the outside as well that would help you. For example, remember that memory of swimming with turtles, and you might write something like that there that's really helpful, almost like an antidote, a useful positive memory that you could think about. So why do these help us? So if I explain about the brain, so our brain has lots of different elements within it that help to protect us from danger. So if I do a hand model of the brain, so our brain stem cell is coming up here, and we have then the limbic system, so this sort of pad of my thumb here, coming round here to the hippocampus, the limbic system, and at the end here we would have the amygdala, which is like a little smoke alarm basically that can be set off if we detect danger. And at the top here we've got our cortex, so our thinking part of the brain, the top at the front of our head. If when we detect danger, often what happens is our survival responses automatically kick into place, and this bit goes offline. So our thinking, rational, logical and imagination part of the brain will come offline. So we hear people say sometimes, I flipped my lid, or I lost my head. That's what we mean by that, that this has come offline. And what's happening is we're governed by our emotional and survival responses, which are in this limbic system here. So the amygdala, like a smoke alarm, goes off, says there's some kind of danger detected, and it sends signals all around the body, from the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and to the hippocampus as well, which is the part that stores memory. So that's in here in our limbic system. And it floods the body with all kinds of things. So for example, adrenaline, we might have a flight response where we run. It might be cortisol, where we go kind of numb, and we might have a freeze or flop response. So those are the fight, flight, freeze, flop and friend, our 5 Fs. And we might have one of any of those responses, but it's happened within milliseconds, these kind of responses. So they're completely survival responses. But what happens is the memory part of our brain, the hippocampus, hasn't been able to store those memories into date and time order. And because it hasn't been able to do that, it can feel then like we've got memories being stored, kind of floating around and not stored rather in our brains, and therefore we can go into a sudden kind of flashback, or maybe again have the same response like a freeze response, or pass out, flop, or feel that need to kind of run and be flooded with adrenaline. So what we can do to help then, because all that information that came in that into our brain is through the senses, touch, taste, sight, sound and smell, then we can help to combat our kind of immediate and survival responses by helping us to ground ourselves and remind our brain, actually right now I'm safe, right now I'm in the present moment, right now I can squidge this owl and I can see around me 5 objects, 4 colours, 3 shapes, for example, 2 sounds, and I can touch this shell and I can feel grounded in the moment. Even though I'm feeling triggered, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can remind myself now that I am back in the present. For some people this box wouldn't work. So for example, lavender might actually be a trigger and that reminds you of something really bad. So that's why this box is completely personal to you. So you can make it like this from scratch, absolutely, from 2 pieces of paper, and collect all kinds of different things that you want. And you don't have to spend much money on this. For example, the shells or pebbles, lavender, spices you could use like cinnamon, or you could have vanilla, for example, essence. You might use a tiny bit of bubble bath and have that in a little pot that you keep in here. Coffee beans, for example, or ground coffee. It could be something more really quick to ground you, like eucalyptus, mint, citrus smells. But again, that could be a trigger for someone else. So it's really important that you experiment with what works for you. So that's how to make a sensory grounding box.